What if the biggest wealth building tool available to the average American isn't the stock market? Come a little closer. Guess what it is? It's the home that you live in every single day. Guys, we're going to talk about how home ownership builds long term wealth and how it benefits you, your family, your bloodline, generational wealth. We're going to jump and dive right into it, all of it. Today's another episode of Teach Me Tuesday. You got Gavin and LaShawn here. Mr. Barry having a few technical difficulties, but hey, if he's able to join in, we'll keep it rocking and rolling. So, LaShawn, let's I guess I would start with this. You know, many people focus on the monthly mortgage payment, but the real conversation at hand should be about the long-term financial benefits of home ownership. Kind of let's break down how home ownership builds wealth over time. It's not. Sometimes it can be over time can sometimes be within a year or two. Sometimes it can be over 10, 15, 20 years. But we're gonna dive in and talk about Mr. Barry done hopped in the live. How about that? Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Well, we just got started. So, but Mr. Sean's gonna go ahead and jump in and uh and yeah, take it away, Mr. Sean.
Yeah. So, I mean, so the question at hand, which I love this topic about, the benefits of home ownership and, how it can help you build long-term wealth, has definitely been a staple for Gavin and I, in our financial journey with us being under 40 and, owning the properties that we've had and just how we're trying to, set ourselves up and our children up for some long-term, assets and wealth building opportunity. But most people don't necessarily consider, I think at the time when they're, thinking about buying a house, they don't really look at it like, is, me buying a house as an asset. Some of them may look at it as like a liability. They're just focused on the payment and just the hustle and bustle of, the landscape and the, decor and things like that. But in reality, guys, I mean, what would y'all say? Would you truly, when you're talking to a client or a prospective client or someone's asking you just out there, like, would you classify a mortgage, a home as an asset, or would you classify it as a liability?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and say, I mean, it's definitely an asset. The reason being,
But
let's
you got to
define
take
it
out
first.
debt. How's it an asset if you're taking
It's,
out debt?
well, it's an asset because it can grow. It's an obligation that can grow over time. Unlike paying rent, which is a liability, rent, you pay it and you never see it again. Yes, you it covered the time of living, the living that you had during that time period, but you got no value, no additional value from it long term. But when you're paying your mortgage as an asset, it can grow as when you every time you pay your mortgage payment. Most of it in the beginning, most of it goes to interest. We disclose that, but over time you're knocking down your principal, and over time your home is appreciating, gaining more and more equity. So that's why it's considered an asset, because it does grow. The financial benefit does grow over time.
What do you think, Wilma? I feel you thinking. I feel like you're looking for, thought. And I feel like your mind is racing and you're thinking about this. What do you say? What's your perspective on that? Will you consider it an asset or a liability?
Well, there's a lot of. Can y'all hear me? I
Yeah,
haven't
oh yeah,
checked
got you loud
anything,
and clear.
so yeah, had some technical difficulties, guys. But I hear the argument out there. There's an argument. It's a big argument between whether your home that you live in is an asset or a liability. And you know, I'm gonna keep it a buck. Okay. Of course, there's some maintenance things you got to keep up with. You got to live there. You got to pay mortgage. You got to do this and that. With the house. So you got expenses going out. Okay. So I will say when you look at it from that standpoint, you know, it could be seen as a liability. However, you own that property, right? You have the ownership of that property. And then that property, like Gavin says, is appreciating over time. Now, I'm gonna play. I know this is a long answer, so forgive me.
That's why we
I'm a
love your perspective.
I just think, you know, it just needs some more handle with care answer. I just think that, but this is the thing with your property. If you decide to sell it, guess what? You're gonna have funds, or you're gonna have money when you sell that property. So now it's like after the sale, oh, now it's an asset. But when you have it, oh, now it's a liability. So it's kind of like, you know, I'm hearing people argue about this point or whatever, but man, I've seen some people, and I know y'all can attest to this. You know, y'all bought a property, you sold it. Guess what? I'm pretty sure you was in better shape after you sold it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
That account a little bigger now, right? Yeah. So I just think when you look at it from a standpoint, you gotta live somewhere. You gotta live somewhere. Why not own where you live? And then if you decide to move, if it's not less than 3 to 5 years, guys, let me put that out there. If you move, guess what? You're gonna have a lump sum that you can take with you, maybe even to invest in another asset. So that's
I
my
love
answer.
it. I
Sorry.
love it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give my little 2 cents, and then we'll kind of move on. It kind of ties into the next point, to this particular topic on how home ownership builds long term wealth. And so, to
Mhm.
me, I say the answer to that question of the how is based on how you decide to leverage
Mhm.
this tool. Right? To me, like, money is a tool, in my opinion. And to me, a part of you buying a house is using it as a tool to leverage, your different areas of your life so that it can build the wealth for you. So although
Right.
you have to borrow money, you know what I mean, in order to, purchase the house, which is quote unquote debt. However, but if you know how to leverage the debt that you're taking out, then it helps you to gain the asset value that it has.
Absolutely.
And that's through equity, because as Gavin was kind of, explaining, or you make your mortgage payment, is almost like I call it like a little savings account, but it's not a tangible savings account. It's not money that you can just walk to the bank anytime you want and go snatch it out. You can't do
Right.
that. Because there's only certain ways you can access the equity, but it's
Mhm.
building this imaginatory savings account for you that you can leverage at some point, whether you decide to borrow against it inside of a line of credit, whether you decide to sell the house and you take it all out. Think about the stock market, like you're investing in something, and there's only one or two ways you can kind of cash out when you're doing it. And so that's how I look at it. It's the way that you use this tool to leverage the wealth in your life.
Okay.
I agree, Brian. That was a great response.
Now he said great responses. He gave
Oh,
gave
there's
us
S.
all
That you see the S. I
yeah,
thought
he's
he
trying
said
to take all the credit.
response.
But anyway, let's move on to the point number 2. So the whole point of this is gaining equity, right? We want equity in the home. What
Right.
truly is equity? I know we've talked about this in previous episodes, guys. But equity definitely is it's simple the difference between what the home is valued at versus what you owe. So
Yeah.
the home is, and you bought a home 2005. Guess what? It's 2026. You might have bought that home at $100,000. Well, guess
Mm.
what? It's now worth $300,000.
Mm.
And the loan that you took out, guess what? You only owe $35,000 on it.
Mm.
So you go to sell that home, you now have $265,000 of equity in
Mm.
terms of the value and what you own that home.
Let but
Now,
let let's stop right there, because
mhm,
I get this, and I know I've said this before, but I feel like it's like one of those things you have to continue to repeat, because people ask me all the time, and I know realtors get asked this all the time as well. Because in that example that you gave, Gavin, people have equity, right?
right,
But you can have something and not know how to, once again, access it, right?
correct.
Because it's not something that's tangible. And so I had a client, literally, true story, that called and was like, "Hey, I just want to get access to my equity. Like, yeah, can you cut me a check for my equity?" And
Just
I'm like,
run
"It
that
don't
check.
work like that."
You know what I'm saying?
It's mine.
You're not selling your house, yeah, you can call Wilmot to sell your house and you can get access to your equity. But if you're trying to keep your house, you can't just walk up to your lender and ask for your check for $200,000+ that you've gained over time. You still have to qualify to borrow against your own money. Think about like a secured loan, a secured credit card or something like that. Your house is what's securing that, and you still have to meet certain qualifications to get access to that equity.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I do see. I will say this is more on the investor side, and I see investors do this strategy called the BRRRR. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the BRRRR strategies. BRRR. Okay, not. I'm not cold. I'm not cold, Gavin. I'm not cold. But
Hey,
BRRRR, as
ice
it.
cream, man. You know.
I was just, hey, I had to give you a shout out for a little bit. BRRRR meaning buy, then renovate, then rent out, and then repeat or do what they call refinance. Okay, to get access to the equity in the property after the renovation occurred and the property is stabilized. Investors will try to refinance to pull out some of that cash that they have pretty much forced appreciation into the property, pull it out to rinse and repeat and do that to another property. That's another, conversation. But
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the strategies I have noticed with some of these investors that are out here. Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and thank you for sharing that. And so before we wrap up for today, I mean, one more question I would like to kind of pose to you guys is that when we're talking about just the whole, building long-term wealth and things of that sort, how do you feel like when you purchase a home, how does that truly impact the future generation? If a person decides to, keep the property and maybe pass it down to their children's children or something like that, do you guys look at it as, a sense of, any type of financial security for the future generations?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a touching topic because just with where we are, um, you don't think about how better off we may have been if our heritage, our lineage, have been able to do this for as long as some of our counterparts. I think generational wealth. I think we see the benefit of generational wealth all around us, and thankfully, in the business that we're in, we get to experience that because we know better. We help others to attain the easiest way to pass down generational wealth through home ownership, and it definitely kind of it helps me gain a better appreciation for what it can do and how it can change the lives of everybody, but those especially who have been disenfranchised from being able to own homes for several years, because you got homes out there that are well, I'm sure you run across them several that are 80, 90, 100 years, sometimes that old. But guess what? There were certain government boundaries or hurdles that were implemented where my great grandmother or grandfather couldn't have owned that home.
Right.
So the benefit of having that generational wealth in today's market to now frees your grandchildren, your children to be able to go out and buy a home or buy something there. Would you like to say
I have
something?
a question. Yeah, I have a question for y'all because I sat into, I don't know, I was either in a meeting or something like that, and someone said in the in the African American, the Black community, sometimes our mindset kind of limits the opportunity that we have for people to build for our culture to build wealth because of our lack of understanding, once again, how to use home ownership and leverage it as a tool. Because say, for example, your grandmother, great grandmother has a house and all they want to do is continue to just pass it down from generation to generation. Over the years, this house has, generated, significant amount of cash value. But if they don't understand the power of how to leverage the cash value that a house has, then the people that are living today, they will never have access to that benefit in their lifetime. Because most people, either, if a family owns a home, especially in a prominent neighborhood and it's mortgage free, and they're like, no, I'm not going to ever refinance it. I'm not going to ever pull the equity out. I'm not going to ever sell it. We just want to keep the house in the family's name. And I understand the pros and cons of why they would want to do that. But if you have a house that may be worth hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that's been sitting in your family, your family lineage, and you never utilize the tool properly to help your family gain wealth while people are struggling, are you really taking advantage of what you have?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, I think, well, what's the the scriptures, and my people perish because of a lack of knowledge, or lack of wisdom. I just feel like, you don't know, if you don't know how to handle different assets, or what you have, you don't know how to handle it, you'll lose it, and I feel right, and it's like, hey, I know that is prominent in our culture, where we might not be knowledgeable about how we can access certain things, but we have to do better of educating ourselves, okay, wanting to learn more about how to maybe utilize or manage or steward what we do have, if we have property, if we have stocks, if we have other assets or whatever, so that, hey, our family can do the right thing with it. Hey, it's okay. I think it's okay if you decide not to sell a property or whatever, but know your options. Know what's out there. Know what kind of benefits you can benefit from the property.
Right.
Instead of just saying, hey, sell it, split it up, be done with it.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Good
I mean, I
topic
love it.
today.
Yeah, so great topic, guys. We hope you guys found it to be valuable. Once again, if you guys ever have any real estate or lending needs, we are your team here with Teach Me Tuesday. So please feel free to reach out to any one of us. We're more than happy to help. And so until next time, next week we'll be in Canada, so we won't be on next week. So until the next time we see y'all. We definitely will thank you guys for tuning in, and catch y'all next time.
Happy Juneteenth.